Welcome, everybody, to episode 180 of Chelsea Against the World, a podcast that brings together an American and an Englishman to discuss all things Chelsea Football Club. I'm your host, Mene.
And I'm Mane,
Mene, I'm in Canada right now. I gotta say my name like the Canadians say.
and I'm
Nova
your
Scotia,
host,
man.
and I'm your host Simone. No, I'm your host Simon.
Simone, there it is.
Simone.
We're next to Quebec here, so I have to like this little French accent, you know?
So just to confirm, this is Manny and Simon from Chelsea Against the World. We're a little bit rattled, Manny, because this is recording on Thursday afternoon after Chelsea beat Luton Town 2-0 in the Carabao Cup. Full disclosure to our audience that we didn't actually plan on recording an episode today after this game, but because of another busy news day in terms of Chelsea, we decided to come on for a short episode. Both of us are on our travels this weekend, so we thought we'd squeeze in a little one just to cover some of the main topics of today. But Manny, another crazy day regarding Chelsea Football Club. And on a day that we play a game, that game has been completely overshadowed by two pieces of big news. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the game quickly, the 2-0 victory, and then the two main transfer talking points that have transpired in the last few hours on Thursday afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Thanks for sticking with us. Chelsea Against the World. Manny, 2-0 Chelsea versus Luton. Pretty routine victory. What are your thoughts on the game today? Did you enjoy the game? Did you enjoy the performance from Chelsea?
Yeah, I was quite surprised. First of all, when the team sheet came out, given that you see Palmer playing after playing last weekend, a couple of days ago, Morgan Rogers are also starting, and then seeing Reece James also back into the midfield, you'd expect a little bit more rotation for these cup games. But Luton's a strong squad, and so I guess Xabi Alonso wanted to continue some continuity in the front three by having Palmer and Rogers on the pitch. I was happy to see Estevao as well playing with Welbeck up top. And then Barco, big call in the midfield, with Reece James, with Caicedo still managing a knock, and the Enzo Fernandez deal we can talk about as well, being on the sidelines, and then back for Achiampong, Lacroix, Chavari, and Gusto, and then Penders between the sticks. And Penders between the sticks, I think we both thought was going to happen, but a couple omissions from the team sheet and a couple additions into the team into the first team lineup.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did a team prediction reel on our social media at CATW podcast, Chelsea Against the World TV as well on YouTube as well, and I predicted full rotation for this one. Full rotation. Some of the fringe players getting a run out. Some of even the youth players getting a run out as well. But actually, I quite like the logic from Xabi Alonso on this one. We're still so early into the season. This could be treated like a pre-season game in terms of building up minutes for our players. And you think about this is a common theme throughout this season. We don't have nearly as many games this season as we did last year. Not as much travel. We need to be taking these cup competitions seriously. And you think about it, over the past few years in particular, when we've played in the Conference League or played in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, and we've rotated the lineup so much, it seems really disjointed, and we don't put a really good performance in, and we have to make those changes anyway. So, have the logic of Xabi Alonso giving these players more time. Cole Palmer, João Pedro have had a whole free summer. There's no reason why they should be rested at this point in time. And yeah, I was really impressed with the lineup that we had. The first half performance, even though we didn't score, was utterly dominant. And it was really dominant throughout the entire game. It was a different setup. Four at the back this time, no wing backs, with Achiampong and Lacroix playing together as centre-back pairing. And I think this might be what we do when we play teams that are going to sit in a low block. I think when we play away, or we're going to play the bigger teams, I think it's going to be three at the back. But when we're playing against a team that's going to have very little ambition to go forward, I think we can afford to be more adventurous in those areas and play more incisively through the midfield. And Valentin Barco, I know I've been sceptical about his arrival, mainly because of his conduct on and off the pitch, but very impressive debut from him today.
No, 100%. I think we mentioned him in the previous couple episodes, and one of the things that I really loved about him is his directness when he turns and gets the ball, he's immediately looking for an outlet or looking for somewhere to pass to in a forward position. It's not really inclined of just passing it back to center back or to another midfielder. He's always trying to advance the ball. And mind you, he had some space off the ball, in terms of the way Luton were playing. But I think he looked fantastic, and I think he's going to be a good versatile option for Xabi Alonso in the midfield when we get Caicedo back, to full fitness and Lavia as well. I think the biggest question though is, can this be consistent? And I remind Chelsea fans that we saw a brilliant performance of one of our academy players, Billy Gilmore, 2 games in a row, and then we expected him to be the Iniesta regen, and then now he's playing in Napoli. So a cautious optimism, but I'm high on Barco. I've seen him play a lot last year at Strasbourg, and particularly when he played well against us when he was at Brighton a couple seasons ago. I'm looking forward to seeing him play. And I know that there's a lot of animosity from England fans based on his conduct, but I think a lot of that will pass as the season progresses. And I'm happy to have a player on our squad that can garner the jeers from opposition fans. I think it's nice.
Yeah, from the Chelsea perspective, I think the fans gave him a warm reception at Stamford Bridge. Listen, if those away fans want to keep booing, let him have it. Cucurella was booed pretty much for 2 years straight after the Euros final in 2024, and it didn't alter his performance levels whatsoever. So, you know what? Long may it continue if he could put in performances like that. One thing that I did note, because I didn't think we weren't too wonderful in the first half, but I think there's a real difference between us playing under Alonso compared to our previous managers regarding a low block. The movement is always forward. All the time they are looking for forward passes, quick 1-2s and interchange. And you think that front three, I know Welbeck connected with Palmer, but Palmer and Rodgers weren't quite as on it today as they were against Fulham, and Estevao as well. But that will come, and like the intention to move forward and break down that low block, I think is going to be a much better strategy from the players that we've got and the tactics we've got under Alonso. And I feel some optimism in the second half. That first goal was absolutely spectacular, a very, very well worked goal. Barco with the long crossfield ball to Malagusto, who crossed it into Danny Welbeck for his first Chelsea goal, and there's a lovely moment and a great header from Welbeck.
No, great. And I think whenever we see Welbeck scoring a goal, we automatically get sort of this sense of, dread, thinking it's always going to be against us. But it's nice to see him, on our side banging in goals. And it's a traditional number 9 header into the perfect spot. Great ball in by Malo Gusto, by the way.
Oh,
He's actually, that's 2 games in a row that he's been playing pretty impressive. And I think, maybe that warrants the 65 million price tag that Chelsea set on him in terms of his transfer fee or whatnot. But, I think it's more and more likely he's probably going to stay. And I think it's going to free up Reece James to be committed to that central midfield role, knowing that we have Malagusto kind of playing that right fullback, wingback role, with Palestra.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's a given now that he stays. I think the valuation we've got, I don't think anyone is going to pay that price. But actually, I think he is. We talked about it previously. I've been very harsh on Gusto in particular, but Alonso's system is going to get a better version of Malagusto. And you've always rated that first season under Pochettino. You mentioned this on so many different podcasts that he playing in that right wing back position, in particular, where he gets to maraud forward, is his strength. Playing as a number 8, which he did for so long, really for 2 seasons under consecutive managers. We're never going to get the best of him. And he's still young, right? He's still, 22, 23 years old? I mean, he's only going to get better. So hopefully he can really prove me wrong this season, and Alonso will get the best out of him. And I think this is the thing, the best coaches get the best out of the best players. So if we could do that as well. The second goal came shortly after. It was an own goal from Luton. But again, great work from Barco and Estevao this time. Estevao, he looked sharp, considering the level of his injury over the summer. He wasn't quite up to speed. He should have maybe scored a couple of goals, but wow, I thought he was excellent actually, and showed the endeavour to get better as well.
Yeah, and I thought he had one particularly pretty cool play in the first half. He was playing a 1-2-1 with Cole Palmer, which Cole Palmer scored and almost got the rebound and scored as well. And then I think in the second half, he had a really good chance from a great pass in from the midfield, and he kind of turned that wide. But I'm with you in the beginning, a little bit of jitters or whatever, but he slowly grew into it. And then speaking of Cole Palmer, Morgan Rogers, I don't know if you're able to listen to that interview that Cole Palmer had recently. I thought it was quite funny and also retrospectively foolish when he was mentioning that he had less freedom that he did in the last year and a half with under Enzo Maresca, and because he mentioned this safe zone, and with Xabi Alonso, he goes, "I get more freedom. I'm able to drop in. I'm able to run around and do things I wanted to." And I think he didn't have that freedom under the last two managers. He did a little bit with Pochettino, and I think that also with having the summer off is going to we're going to see a lot more from Cole Palmer. Who maybe he was playing a little bit more timid based on what Enzo Maresca wanted him in the role last year.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think also it's interesting as well as a coach. There's certain managers, and I think Arteta and Maresca both have this, where they're so regimented and so rigid in the way that they want their attackers to play. It's interesting that Alonso lets these players play with more freedom, but if you look at the average positions of the Chelsea team, particularly against Fulham, it was perfect to the formation. There was no real deviation. It was how people expected it to set up. But the players still played with freedom, but they still had the tactical awareness to be in the right positions. And I think that is the key difference I think I see under Alonso is that the formation structure is very rigid, but the freedom that the players have within those zones, I think, is far greater. And I agree with you. I think that Palmer is definitely going to be a beneficiary of that. And I think Morgan Rogers will get up to speed. He's still only been back a couple of weeks pre-season training. He still doesn't look completely sharp, but yeah, it's exciting times. Who was your man of the match?
I'm going to go Valentin Barco. I thought he was great. I thought he was impressive. When he made the mistake, giving the ball away in the second goal, he came back and won the ball and was able to, get it into play for us to score the own goal from Esteval. But I thought he just looked really sharp. I thought, he handled the pressure, I think, playing in that midfield. I know it's against Luton Town, but still, it's a big start at Stamford Bridge, first time for him, and basically getting the animosity of roughly a large Luton crowd. These cup games, you get a larger capacity of away fans, and so he was able to sort of, go against the grain and played really, really well.
Yeah, definitely. I think I would have given it to Barco as well. I think close run though is Josh Achimpong. Him and Gusto I thought were excellent, but I thought Achimpong in particular. And I am so pleased to see him starting games. And I made this point in a private conversation earlier that Achimpong playing next to Lacroix or Colwell is going to do much better for his development than playing next to Trevor Chalobah, Benoit Badiashile or Tosin. And him getting the minutes we saw with Hato last season, you have to give these young players minutes for them to develop. And that's two excellent performances from Achimpong in successive games. There might be a dip in the next couple you never see, but he needs those minutes to develop. And I tell you, we have to keep him. We absolutely have to keep him. But a very impressive display by Chelsea. Thoughts on Alonso? You think it was pretty routine?
Yeah, it was pretty routine. I think so. I think, it's hard pressed for me to negate anything tactically wise or man management wise from him. I thought he was fantastic, and it's nice for us to see, even though it was only a 2-0, could it end up being 3-4, 5-0. I mean, Gittins had a great chance at the end as well. We had the woodwork three times, but I think tactically, I thought it was spot on from Xabi Alonso, and looking forward to the game this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a big time coach now. I think we're going to start seeing big time performances, especially with some of the news that broke today. I don't know really where we start. Let's start with the incoming transfer news that really has come out of nowhere in the last 48 hours. Emi Martinez, Debu Martinez, as many people like to call him, not me, but he will be joining Chelsea as our new number one keeper for £7.5 million from Aston Villa. I am stunned. I genuinely thought this was it with our goalkeepers when Sanchez was starting against Fulham. But no, we have got a World Cup winning goalkeeper who I think the reputation of him is very, very strong, but joining us on a 2-year contract with a 1-year option. What are your thoughts on this signing, Manny?
Yeah, first of all, we've done some pretty good deals with Aston Villa this season, and they mentioned to our upper management or front office that he was, they were offering him to us, which is some sort of weird way of saying, please sign him. And it was a £7.5 million deal. So I thought it was actually a pretty good deal in a sense of how much we paid in terms of fee and having two outgoings for them, getting Garnacho off our book, Nico Jackson off our book as well. I think the business side of it is really, really good. I'm excited. I know he's sort of at the tail end of his career. Had a, I mean, he wasn't like the Emi Martinez that we saw 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But if anybody saw the way Bob Sanchez played this past weekend against Fulham, I think it was well evident that Xabi Alonso wanted a new keeper. And when this happened, he was like, "Yeah, let's make it happen." You know, couple things. I think, we can talk a lot about his shot stopping. We can talk about his penalty saving pedigree. But I think it's more about his experience, his like crazy winning mentality. You cannot teach that, especially in a goalkeeper. I mean, he's been able to bounce back whether it's playing under Argentina or playing, with with Aston Villa conceding one or two goals, but he's able to bounce back. And you can tell that's a complete opposite of what we saw in Jorgensen and Bob Sanchez. When a mistake happened, it just sort of ruined their mentality and their psyche. To me, that is the biggest thing he's bringing. Yeah, shot stopping is there, distribution may be there, whatnot, but it's that elite goalkeeping mentality that you cannot teach. You cannot teach at all. And even if he makes a mistake, he's able to bounce back from it. I did not see that from Sanchez or from Jorgensen.
Spot on. And yeah, that's exactly right. I think you can make the case statistically there's not much difference between them. And that's right. But we've made the emphasis so much this summer, and we've talked about it in the last few episodes, about the intangibles. The intangibles that Emi Martinez has are far greater than the intangibles that Robert Sanchez has. As he said, statistically, they're similar. But this is a World Cup winner who won a penalty shootout for Argentina and also kept them in the final against Spain a few weeks ago for this World Cup as well. This guy brings confidence to his defence. Aston Villa had a very good defence under Emi Martinez in goal. And this team has been missing those intangibles that we keep talking about. And ultimately, there's like several areas of thought I had. I've had like quite mixed reaction about it, but personally, I'm pleased that it's happening. For a number of reasons. Firstly, it stops the conversation about Sanchez every week. Really, I find it so tiring. And I'm not saying from either, I think it's from either side as well. Those who support him one week and then have a go at him for the next. Those who blind support him or blind hate him. I feel that the discourse around him is so dull. It's so dull and unproductive. And I feel sorry for him in one way because I think natural ability, he's unbelievably talented, but those intangibles that we talked about with Martinez, you never know which version of him you're going to get. And for a defence that needs stability, for an inexperienced side, we've talked about this for years now. A top-level goalkeeper with a top mentality brings the whole defence on board and gets them to calm down. And honestly, if we are thinking that Penders is the one for the future, which it does seem like he is, this is a better transition. Because Sanchez is 27, that's not old, or 28, he's not old for a goalkeeper. How do you give Penders the minutes without throwing him in when he's not ready? This is a perfect scenario where you've got a keeper who's on the back end of his career, who's going to transition properly. But on the flip side, I have to say, this shows what a fucking shower of shite this decision on the goalkeeper has been at Chelsea for the last few seasons. And I applaud them for changing tack because of Xabi Alonso. However, they have persisted with this guy for so long. They knew exactly what he was when they bought him. They knew exactly what he was the first two seasons. They knew exactly what he was before the game against Fulham. Why has this happened so late in the transfer window now? Surely Alonso, he must have been pushing for a new goalkeeper all summer. And honestly, Sanchez's performance against Fulham could have cost us 3 points. And where we don't know where we're going to end up with this season, where points are so precious, that decision could have been costly for us in this game. And I applaud them for changing direction. However, they needed to see this a lot sooner. And fair play to Alonso for persuading them, but this has been an experiment that has gone wrong, much like a lot of what Chelsea's been under Clear Lake Capital. And I applaud the change of direction, and I'm trying to look forward, but I think it's important to criticise the decision-making that's led up to it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, I don't know who thought it was a great idea of getting him from Brighton, and you and I were, you know, supportive of him last season when he was making really incredible world-class saves and had a good stretch for Chelsea, part of October, November, and then kind of dipped when everybody else dipped. And then when Maresca left, it just went downhill, or whatnot. But I think in terms of the front office, yeah, it just kind of two things. I know you sparked about the foolishness and the negativity and all that stuff, and rightfully so, how shambolic they were, backing Sanchez for the last couple of years when they were options. Mike Maignan last summer was an option for Chelsea to sign. I mean, basically, people were saying you should sign him, and I think if we had him, things would have been much differently last year. We'd probably be playing on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The other positive thing I want to sort of push onto is saying that, okay, the sporting directors and the ownership are now all in on Xabi Alonso. They sort of put this whole bullshit aside about this mentality of having Bob Sanchez and metrics and things like that. They're signing players like Danny Welbeck, who scored today, Jordan Henderson, who provides leadership skills. The whole mantra of Blueco was in the previous setting. I think it's completely out the window. And this signing cements that. This signing would not have happened under Enzo Maresca, would not have happened under Pochettino and other coaches in the Blueco era. They are giving the keys to the bank to Xabi Alonso with the signing. I mean, it goes back to bringing on players like, buying players like Danny Welbeck, Jordan Henderson, and I think this Emi Martinez signing cements that basically they're going to back this manager to the fullest.
Definitely. Yeah, as I said, I keep saying, like, look, it is important to reference the past, but it's, as you said, you can only correct the course of the future. And I said actions speak louder than words. I didn't want to hear any more transfer briefs about what we're going to do in the future. And this is that. And like, I'm not going to be one of those people who said, I said 2 episodes ago, the reason why the thing that could hold us back, Chelsea, this season is the goalkeeper. And I want that to change. So I can't complain when they act on it. And as I said previously, if Alonso wants someone, I want someone. And does this quickly, before we talk about the next story, does this reassess what you think your expectations are for Chelsea this season now?
I mean, you have to see him play at least 1 or 2 games. The whole developing a partnership relationship with the back line and the midfield and things like that, and his long passing and playing out and everything like that. I mean, I still think we're going to get top four 100%. Does it push us into that championship speak? I still don't think so. I still think there's some glaring issues that Chelsea has to fix, long term, and one of them has to be, I mean, getting these yellow cards and red cards and things like that. I mean, I think we'll still have some of those disciplinary issues moving forward, even though we're getting rid of some of those issues. I think next year for sure. This year, I don't know. I want to be proven wrong. I hope to be proven wrong, but I don't think it lifts us still in that championship mindset yet.
Yeah, that's fair. For me, I feel that these are moves when you are pushing to succeed now, which is encouraging to me. And I made the bold prediction that we would win the league. Things are going in the right direction. We have no European football this year. We've got our best players looking like the best players that we bought. And we've got a manager who has proven that he can win a league title in a big league. Stranger things have happened. But this is a good move that shows the fan base that we're thinking about now. And I think those people who were complaining about the ownership, including me and you, we have to say, fair enough, let's see how it goes. Like, the ultra criticism, I think, has to be pushed to the side for a moment because they have responded in a way that every fan has wanted them to do. So let's see. Let's see. One other incoming news today, just to throw it back to old school Clear Lake, Chelsea have signed an 18-year-old defender for £40 million. Let's see if I can get his name pronunciation correct. So, Honest Anonha from Atalanta in Italy. I know next to nothing about this player. He's very highly scouted from a lot of people, but this shows that balance, tweaking the model. On the same day that we can buy an 18-year-old defender, they buy a 33-year-old goalkeeper to be the number one. You know much about this guy?
I know nothing about this guy, but I do want to sort of give sort of an correlation. I know that he's started, a bunch of games this past season, and we're paying a pretty significant fee. And I think other teams were actually after him, but going into these negotiations, but he, I guess, was happy with the Chelsea project, long-term contract, and things like that. And I think it kind of reminds me of how there was some notion of us going after Jeremy Jacquet that went to Liverpool, and they signed him at the last second. I think this is sort of like a pushing of a signing, kind of like that, where there's potential in this player, and we want to get him now before Brighton does, right? And then we have to pay $100+ million for him later on. So I'm okay with the signing.
Yeah, same. And also, we bought Yoel Hato at the same age for a similar price as well. And this is a player who's now going to be featuring heavily in the first team at Chelsea. So good luck to Honest. That's a great name for Chelsea Football Club. Other big story before we round up this episode. Enzo Fernandez looks like he's on the verge of joining Manchester City. This, I think we both predicted, was going to be the end result of this whole saga. I have mixed feelings about it. Which I will go into shortly. But what is your instant reaction to the fact that Enzo Fernandez is about to leave us for Enzo Maresca's Manchester City?
A lot of Enzos, right? Both Enzos getting out of here. No, I'm for it. I'm over it now. Like, him, all this nonsense, and I kind of bought into your mentality. I feel like we're both crossing paths, right? Like you're coming towards what I was saying. Now I'm going towards what you're believing. If he wants to stay, he could have stayed. He doesn't want to stay. Then leave. Let's get the biggest fee we can. 120 million pounds minimum at the very least, can take over some of that 90 million pounds we got for him. And then, I know it's only been 2 games, but I kind of understand the point that you made quite eloquently a couple of podcasts ago, that he probably doesn't really fit Xabi Alonso's system, right? I think he's going to be playing a sort of same role that you'd expect Caicedo to play, where it's, it's going to be more difficult for him to like play in that advanced role where he's crashing into the box when we have Cole Palmer, Morgan Rogers, and João Pedro in those roles as well. So I think there's sort of a tactical redundancy with him and Moises Caicedo. Like I think, Alonso wants a player that can, sort of a balanced midfield pairing with somebody that's sort of like physically anchored in the midfield that and can also be a ball carrier. And I don't think that they both can do that. Caicedo and Enzo on the pitch at the same time. I think Barco fits that a little bit better, and I think he'll probably kind of fit in that role moving forward with Caicedo. It kind of reminds me of like that Matic and N'Golo Kante pairing, not quite to that extent, obviously, but I think that's what you're going to see. I don't think Enzo really kind of fits in that role that Xabi Alonso wants. So, and I think Alonso would have convinced him to stay if he fit, the picture he wants Chelsea to play. And look, he played well when he came on last game for the last 30, 40 minutes and was able to secure us a victory and things like that. But if his heart's on the project, then get the fuck out.
Absolutely. I think he's a very good footballer, but I'm going to make this abundantly clear for everyone listening to this podcast, okay? Fuck Enzo Fernandez, okay? As soon as he started twerking in Madrid in January when everything was going sideways at Chelsea, I wanted him out. He's a very good footballer, but as you said, he didn't want to be here. If you don't want to be for Chelsea, you can go. That's absolutely fine. His conduct to me by the end of this really rubs me the wrong way, and it's nothing to do with him. Now, I think this is a bit of a misconception from a lot of international Chelsea fans saying that people have got a grudge against him because he scored the equalising goal against England. I can tell you that's got nothing to do with it. What is he supposed to do playing for Argentina against England? Of course, yeah, that celebration. Oh, man, I wish you could see Manny's face right now. He did a sterling copy of that Enzo Fernandez celebration just for me. No, it's because he doesn't want to play for Chelsea. And this is not the first time he's caused problems for Chelsea. He is not worth the trouble for me. Statistically, he's not worth it. His win percentage, the Chelsea win percentage with him in the team is 38.7%. The win percentage without him is 52.9%. This guy is not the best midfielder in the world. If you're telling me who would I rather lose, Moises Caicedo or Enzo Fernandez, I would say Enzo Fernandez every day of the week. And if he doesn't want to go, fine. See you later, mate. See you later. I think this is a good opportunity for Chelsea to maybe not buy a better player, but buy a better fit for this team. And I think the players that we've been rumoured with, Alex Scott, may not be the finished article. But I think if you look at the way that he plays, he fits into the mould of what Xabi Alonso wants these players to do in midfield. There's been a new rumour in the last few minutes from quite a couple of well-established sources that Lamine Camara from Monaco, that there's a bid going in from Chelsea around 60 million euros. I personally think with the money that you sell Enzo Fernandez for, you could buy two midfielders that have a better fit within there, and you could also, that would enable you to move Reece James out to the right centre back or right wing back, or the right back playing in a four. I think this gives you more tactical flexibility. And this is the point I've been thinking about with Enzo Fernandez. I don't think he's one of the world's best midfielders. I've never been convinced that he has been. If he was one of the best midfielders in the world, we wouldn't be having a discussion the last 3 seasons about where his best position in the midfield is and how do you accommodate him. The best midfielders push their way into the team and make the team around them, like Caicedo does, like Cole Palmer does further forward. Enzo Fernandez is not at the same level. And if we can get £120 million from him and invest it better, I think it's worth it.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I think they're a little bit, difficulty in terms of losing that mentality. I think he had one of the elite mentalities on the squad last couple of seasons, was able to kind of, make those, really, really important goals in some of the games or whatever. But no person is above the badge. And I don't think we should keep somebody who thinks they're above the badge. If you're willing to go, just go. And I think it will probably help out the locker room a little bit, getting the saga over with and not having him there with this mentality, not in it. The problem, though, is, will Chelsea want to sell him this quick and this fast? There's some chirpings that maybe they don't. Who knows what's going to happen? But I still think he's going to be leaving.
Yeah. I think Alonso wants players who are bought in. Every good manager wants a player who's bought in, no matter how good they are. If they're not bought in, you can go. And Alonso is that good of a coach that he will make it work. And actually, you think about the leadership that we talk about with Enzo Fernandez. He has been a part of that group that hasn't been able to rein in this immature behaviour from Chelsea players. We've had to buy certain experience to compensate for that. And to me, Alonso has focused on Reece James becoming the leader that we need, but also having players around him who are also pushing for the cause. And Enzo Fernandez is not that. So he can go. And I won't be too disappointed by it. He's been trouble from the start. He's a very good player, and he's had some very good moments for Chelsea, but not nearly consistent enough for me. And he can go. Before we finish up, Manny, because we're not going to do a full preview of the Brighton game because both of us are on the road this weekend. Quick score prediction for the Chelsea versus Brighton on Sunday.
Yeah, 2-1 Chelsea. 2-1 Chelsea. I think we win. I think it's going to be a little bit nerve-wracking. Brighton played well last week, and I think it's going to be a 2-1 victory, but there's going to be I'm interested to see who starts in goal. Will it be Penders 2 games in a row? Who knows?
That uncertainty has got me worried, and Brighton are a good team. I will think it might be a draw. I think it might be 2-2, and I don't think that's the worst result in the world, personally. But I would love it, obviously, if we can get a win. I just think with the lack of continuity at the moment in the goalkeeper position and what happens with Enzo the next couple of days might disrupt us a little bit. But if we can come away with being undefeated at home that early on, I think it's good things for us.
Well, that brings us another episode of Chelsea Against the World. We want to thank you, listeners, for tuning in each and every single week.
Yeah, thank you for sticking with us on this shorter episode this week. We'll be back with a new episode after the Brighton game on Monday evening, most likely. But if you're interested in following our social media, we're at CATW Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Chelsea Against the World on Facebook, Chelsea Against the World TV on YouTube. If you've got email for us, we're info@catwpodcast.com. A new newsletter will be going out very soon for our subscribers. And whatever podcast platform you listen to us on, including YouTube, please give us a follow or a subscribe. It really helps us out. Keep the faith. Another victory under the Alonso era, but lots of new things to come, including a new goalkeeper. Things are looking really optimistic for Chelsea this season. I think we mean serious business. We'll see you after the game this weekend against Brighton, but thank you so much for tuning in.